Hello, Trig students. Lesson 54, parabolas. Some of this lesson is really a review of material that you've had in both Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, but I find that we might be a little rusty on it. We're going to be graphing parabolas using the vertex form, and we find vertex form by completing the square. So first of all, you can review what some of the different forms are for the parabola. And although we are using the vertex form, know that you may see them in all three forms, especially if you're doing delta math, they may show up different ways. All right, so here's an example of a green graphed parabola, and you can see from the equation over here that it gives us an indication what that vertex is. The x parenthesis value is going to be the x value in the vertex. It says x minus 2, but if you were to set that up as x minus 2 equals 0, you would find x equals 2. So this right here keyed us into the vertex being at 2. Okay, and then off to the side, you see the y value. So that is how we find the vertex given the equation. All right, so we're going to start off with a practice question A. And it is asking us to complete the square in order to graph this. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up a complete the square box. So I'm going to write the question as I see it, but I'm going to go ahead and put my parentheses in, put my x squared minus 4x, but then I'm going to have my magic box, close the parentheses. I still have my plus 2 brought down, and this time I'm going to say minus that magic box. Notice that we have them both on the same right side of the equal sign, and that's why we have a plus and a minus in order for those to cancel each other out. Okay, so if you are not sure how we do completing the square, maybe it's been too long, let's just off to the side remember for that magic box, what you're doing is you take your b value and you divide it by 2, and then you square it. So the b value is the one that has just the x after it. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2, and then we square it, so it comes out to be a positive 4. Excuse me. So now I have x squared minus 4x plus 4, and then I take plus 2 and minus 4, combine them into a minus 2. All right, then I need to rewrite that trinomial in the middle here. So I take the square root of the first and the last terms to do that. That would be an x and a 2. And I take the unit, or the sign from in here, and put it down there. So when I basically factored it, this is what my result is. Okay, so once again, I took the square roots, and then I took the sign from the middle, so x minus 2 squared, and that is factored. All right, so that's completed the square. Now I'm going to take that information to figure out what my vertex is. And I'm going to label it down here. My vertex as an ordered pair is this number, but it's the opposite, so positive 2. And this number as is, negative 2. And I'm going to go ahead and graph just that part, positive 2 to the right, down 2, and I'm going to put a dot. Now I'm going to make an XY table based off of the information that I know there. That's how I know what numbers to put in my XY table. Okay, so the vertex is going to go in the middle. And then I'm going to count up and down from that vertex 2 places. So on the x's, I went from 0 to 4. And then I go back to either of these original equations. So know that you could have used the very original, or you can have used this simplified, completed the square original. And we're going to plug in 0. Okay, sometimes I find using this very original one is easier when plugging in 0 because it zeroes out, and we have 2 left over. So when I plug in 0 for x, I get 2. When I plug in 1, again, I can go back to that original equation, and I get 1 minus 4 plus 2, and I get -1. If we did it correctly, this is a mirror image. Okay, and you can double check yourself to make sure that that is correct. Then I'm ready to plot those points. So I'm plotting point 0, 2, 1, -1, 3, -1, and 4, 2. And now you should see the beginning of what should look like a U-type graph. So I'm just going to go through, round it out, make it U-shaped, and draw arrows on either side to indicate that it does continue. Okay, so that is question A. Let's go over here to question B. We're going to start the same way we did on question A, where we have some magic boxes filling in, but I'm going to have to pull a negative out front because completing the square requires x squared to be all alone. So if I pull the negative out front, I'm ending up with a plus 6x and a plus box. And last time, we learned to just subtract that box outside. However, because this has a negative out front, this is going to become a plus in order to cancel it, because that first box is really being subtracted if you distribute the negative. My second box has to add in order to cancel it. Okay, and then I can go back over here and remember how to find the magic box. Take your b value, divide by 2, and then square it. So my b value is 6, divide by 2, and then square it, and I get 9. Okay, so if I clean that up, I have negative, parentheses, x squared, plus 6x, plus 9, and then outside I have a plus 1. Then I need to factor it into a smaller binomial form, okay, and that is by doing the square root of the first and last terms. Keep that negative out front, square root x squared, square root 9, bring the sign down, and then bring down the plus 1. And then we make this squared. Okay, so that is the answer to completing the square. Take that information to find our vertex. We have our x value here, but we change the sign. Y value, keep it as is. My vertex is going to take place at -3, 1. Then I'm going to build my xy table. And remember, I put that vertex in the middle. And then I'm just going to count up and down from there. So I have up through -1, and on this side through -5. And I will probably use this original equation to plug my numbers in, because I tend to find that is easier for me. So if I plug in a -1 here, I get -1 plus 6 minus 8. So that is a -3. And if I plug in a -2, that's going to become Negative 4 plus 12 minus 8, that one zeroes out. And you should get the mirror image down below, and then we'll graph that. Negative 1, negative 3, negative 2, 0, negative 4, 0, and negative 5, negative 3. Whoop. So my parabola looks something like that. All right, these are on Delta Math. You are going to have to do some completing the square to solve those. Good luck.